Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving headfirst into the captivating realm of dreams. And specifically, we're going to unpack some of the foundational ideas that really shaped how we understand them.
Right. We'll be looking at how people thought about dreams, through history, from seeing them as messages from gods or demons even.
Yeah, all the way to the beginnings of a more, let's say, scientific approach, placing dreams squarely within our own minds.
And what's fascinating right from the start is that this shift from external forces to our internal world, it didn't actually settle the big question. What do dreams really mean?
Exactly. We're still trying to figure out how they connect to our mental processes, our biology even, and whether all those, bizarre images and stories hold any specific significance for us individually.
Precisely. And our sources today lay out three pretty compelling historical perspectives on this.
Okay, what's the first one?
Well, first, there's this idea of philosophical overvaluation. Dreams seen as almost a superior state, a liberation of the spirit, I think Schubert called it.
Right, where the soul could just roam free, unconstrained by the senses.
Yeah. Then you've got the theory that dreams bubble up from those mental impulses we suppress during the day, things we don't want to think about when we're awake.
Makes sense. And the third?
And finally, the medical viewpoint, which, it largely dismissed dreams, saw them as just meaningless byproducts.
Kind of like background noise.
Pretty much. Pins describe them as random piano key press, just useless physical sensations, no musical intention, neurological noise.
Wow, quite a spectrum there. From profound spiritual insights to just static.
It really is. Yet, despite all that scientific skepticism, people have consistently believed their dreams do hold meaning.
Often as a way to glimpse the future, right? Even if the methods were, a bit crude.
Definitely. And the dreams themselves are often so incredibly strange, which doesn't make interpreting them any...
Right. And this is where things get really interesting. According to the material we're looking at, there was a significant turning point.
It's a surprising discovery, wasn't it? That this popular, almost superstitious belief in dream meaning was actually closer to the mark than the purely medical dismissal.
Exactly. And this revelation came about through applying a new method of psychological investigation, psychoanalysis.
Which was already showing promise, right?
Yeah.
In treating things like phobias, obsessions, delusions, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what's really significant is the similarity observers noticed between the, let's say, illogical world of dreams and the pattern seen in waking mental illnesses.
Suggesting a common underlying mechanism, perhaps.
That was the thinking. If psychoanalysis could help understand the roots of mental distress, maybe it could also unlock the mysteries of dreams, seeing them as another form of mental expression.
Okay, so let's unpack the psychoanalytic method a bit more. At its heart is this technique called free association.
Right, which is essentially just saying whatever comes to mind without censoring yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You focus on a single detail from a dreamlike, one image, one feeling, and then you just let your thoughts flow. Report every single association, no matter how silly or off topic it seems.
The crucial part is dropping that internal editor, that voice saying, oh, that's irrelevant or that's embarrassing.
Yeah, and that raises a really important question. Why would such an unstructured approach actually be insightful?
Because that initial resistance people feel thinking, my random thoughts can't possibly be relevant. That's actually key, isn't it?
It is. It's that very critical voice in our heads that usually keeps these deeper, less obvious connections hidden from our conscious awareness.
But by letting go of that judgment, just following the threads of thought, seemingly unrelated ideas start to connect back to that original dream element. It's like pulling on a loose string, and gradually you see how it's woven into a much bigger pattern.
Leading to a new understanding, ultimately.
Precisely. And to really show how this works, our source gives a detailed example of a personal dream.
Right, this is where we can see the method in action. The dream itself, the manifest content, what was actually remembered is quite odd.
What happened in the dream?
Okay, so the dreamer is in the company of others at a table. Someone's eating spinach. Then a woman he barely knows turns her attention to him, places her hand on his knee quite intimately.
And his reaction?
Just removes her hand, no words exchanged. Then he's surprised when he realizes who the woman is, someone he has little friendly contact with, no known desire for a closer relationship, hasn't seen or thought about recently.
And crucially, there were no strong emotions attached to the dream itself.
None reported.
Yeah.
And when he first thought about it consciously, it just made no sense. It was completely unintelligible.
So the decision was made to take this perplexing dream apart, piece by piece, using free association, starting with those individual elements.
Exactly. Let's begin with company and table, or the abbreviation TD. What did that spark?
The very first thing that came to mind was recent actual event, sharing a taxi cab with a friend the night before. The friend had made some comment about the taximeter being a pleasant distraction, and the dreamer had this immediate internal thought about, like, owing money the second they got in the cab.
Ah, interesting. So the meter immediately triggered thoughts of debt.
Yes, and this quickly led to a connection between the ticking meter and feelings of being, well, maybe a bit avaricious or selfish, always aware of debt, the anxiety of getting a bad deal.
And that feeling then broadened out.
It did, broadened to the idea of a TD, or table d'hôte, a shared meal at a fixed price, which brought this slightly comic sense of maybe not getting enough, having to watch out for your own interests.
It even triggered a specific quote, didn't it? Something about making the poor man fall into debt.
Yes. You make the poor man fall into debt. But that wasn't the only association with tut-do, which seems to be another way he thought of TD.
No, a second association popped up. More recent, slightly irritating, being at a hotel dining table with his wife.
And what was the issue there?
He felt she was being maybe a bit too friendly with strangers, which made him feel like he was getting a short end of the stick, socially speaking, like he was losing out somehow.
Which is a stark contrast to the dream where the woman focused only on him.
A very important contrast, yes. And this proved to be a significant turning point in the analysis.
How so?
Because the dream event, the woman's focused attention, subtly echoed a similar episode from his courtship with his wife. A discreet caress under the tablecloth had been her intimate reply to a love letter he'd sent.
But in the dream, it wasn't his wife.
Exactly. In the dream, his wife was substituted by this comparative stranger. And here's the twist. This stranger happened to be the daughter of someone to whom the dreamer had been in debt in the past.
Wow. So an unexpected link revealed through the substitution.
Absolutely. It really underscores that key principle. Associations from one dream element can bridge to entirely different yet connected areas of the mind.
Okay, let's move to the next element. The woman's intimate attention and her hand on his... What associations came up there?
This led directly back to the daughter of the debtor, and the inferred meaning behind her gaze in the dream specifically, this unspoken compliment, "You've always had such beautiful eyes." Well, that suggested a feeling.
A feeling that.
That people have always been generous towards him, that he's always received things, maybe love or attention, without necessarily having to earn or pay for them.
Which is fascinating because his conscious belief was the total opposite, wasn't it?
Completely the opposite. He tended to feel he'd always had to work incredibly hard, pay a high price for any advantages.
So this contrast sparked further associations.
It did, including the very recent free taxi ride with his friend, the same friend who, ironically, had a history of putting the dreamer in his debt.
And there was a missed opportunity to repay him recently.
Yes, and adding another layer, the only actual gift the dreamer had ever given this friend was an antique bowl decorated with painted eyes, an oculus malice, an evil eye.
And the friend's profession.
An eye cert. And to top it off, that very same evening, the dreamer had asked this friend about a female patient he'd referred for a consultation and
It's quite remarkable how these seemingly random fragments, the debt, the eyes, the free ride, the gift, started to weave together into this coherent network.
It really is. A web of associations hidden beneath the surface.
Okay, now what about that very specific detail? Spinach was being... What did that evoke?
The image of spinach immediately triggered a memory of a recent family dinner. One of his children, a child admired for their beautiful eyes, interestingly, had stubbornly refused to eat spinach.
And that connected to his own child.
Yes, it linked back to the dreamer's own strong dislike of spinach as a child, an aversion which had eventually turned into a fondness for it. So it connected his early life with his child's current experience.
And this memory also brought back a parental remark.
It did. His mother's comment. "You ought to be glad to have spinach. There are children who would be only too pleased to have it."
A classic guilt trip.
Basically, yes. And for the dreamer, this served as a reminder of parental duty, echoing a deeper feeling. You bring us into life, the poor man. You let us fall into guilt, and then you leave us to bear the pain. It even made him see Goethe's words, "For all guilt is suffered for on earth," in a new light.
So, looking back at this first stage of analysis, what are the key takeaways?
Well, what immediately stands out is the power of just following those associative threads, even from seemingly minor dream elements. They led to really significant personal thoughts, buried recollections.
And crucially, these thoughts were intimately connected to the dream content, but the connections were totally hidden on the surface.
Exactly. The dream itself felt emotionally flat, disconnected, unintelligent, but the underlying thought. They were charged with intense emotion, formed logical chains, and kept circling back to these core ideas. Selfish versus unselfish, being in debt versus getting something for free.
And there was a hint that these threads converged on a single point, though the dreamer didn't reveal it publicly.
Right, due to its deeply personal nature. It also became clear that this analysis brought things to light that the dreamer wasn't even willing to admit to himself consciously.
Which makes you wonder why this particular, seemingly obscure dream was chosen as the example.
The explanation given is quite insightful, actually. It suggests that any thorough dream analysis tends to uncover similarly sensitive personal material.
So analyzing someone else's dream with that level of transparency could be problematic.
Potentially harmful, yeah. So using a personal dream, even an obscure one, allow the demonstration of the method without divulging potentially damaging private information about someone else.
Okay, this brings us to a really crucial shift in understanding what the dream itself actually represents in relation to these underlying thoughts.
Right. At this point, the dream isn't seen as just random images anymore. It's viewed as a substitute for those meaningful emotional thought processes that analysis brings out.
Which directly challenges those purely physical explanations, the random brain cell firing idea.
Absolutely. Two things support this. First, the dream content is way shorter and less detailed through the complex web of underlying thought.
Second,
the dream was triggered by that seemingly minor, unimportant event from the previous evening, the cab ride.
And this isn't presented as just a one-off case, is it?
No, the source emphasizes that consistently applying free association to any dream tends to reveal similar, rational, intelligible trains of thought where the dream's components reappear.
Which leads us to some really important terminology.
Yes, we now distinguish between the manifest content, the dream as we remember it, the surface story,
and the latent content, the hidden stuff, the thoughts, wishes, memories uncovered by analysis.
Exactly. And this distinction opens up a whole new set of questions.
Like, what's the psychological process that actually transforms the latent stuff into the manifest dream we experience?
And what are the motives? Why the disguise? Why this transformation? This is where the concept of dream work comes in.
The process of transformation itself.
Right. And it's important to see the analysis, the free association, as the counterpart to this dream work. It's like reverse engineering it, trying to undo the transformation.
So the goal becomes understanding the instigators, the origins of the material, the meaning, the function, even why we forget dreams, all by looking at this hidden, latent content.
Precisely. The contradictory views on dreams throughout history, largely attributed to ignorance of these deeper layers.
So it's absolutely crucial to keep these two levels separate, the manifest dream story and the latent thought.
Very crucial. This transformation process itself is highlighted as incredibly significant. It's seen as the first known instance where we observe psychical material changing its form of expression like this.
This framework then lets us start categorizing dreams based on how the manifest and latent content relate.
Exactly. First, you have dreams that, on the surface, make sense. They seem to fit into our waking mental life, pretty often short, seemingly unremarkable.
Okay, type 1.
Second, dreams that are internally coherent. They make a kind of sense within the dream, but they're baffling because their meaning doesn't connect to our waking thoughts. Like dreaming a loved one dies for no apparent reason within the dream.
Right, unsettling. And the third?
The third category, and this is the majority of dreams apparently, are those that seem completely nonsensical, fragmented, confused, meaningless.
The ones that really contribute to the low opinion of dreams and that medical theory of just restricted mental activity.
Pretty much. Incoherence is common, especially in longer dreams.
And it's for these second and third types, the baffling and the nonsensical ones, that the manifest latent distinction is most vital.
Absolutely essential. The riddle often disappears once you replace the manifest dream with the latent thoughts, the personal dream we analyze. That falls squarely into that third category, seemingly unintelligible.
And the source suggests a link between how unintelligible a dream is and how difficult it might be to consciously face the thoughts underneath.
Yes, that the disguise might serve a psychological purpose, but it also points to the value of looking at those first category dreams, the simpler ones where manifest and latent content seem closer. Less dream work distortion, perhaps.
And children's dreams are presented as a key example of this simpler type.
A really important example. Simple, significant, and often not puzzling at all, which also argues against that dissociated brain activity idea of sleep. Why would adult sleep be so bizarrely disordered, but not children?
Good point. Understanding childhood psychic processes might be a stepping stone to adult psychology.
Exactly. Which leads us to some truly fascinating examples of children's dreams, presented as largely undisguised wish fulfillments.
Like the 19-month-old girl, starving because she'd vomited after eating strawberries.
And then dreams of saying her name, followed by stabbo wild stabbo omelet pudding, a list of the very delicacies she was likely being denied.
So direct. And the little boy denied cherries.
The 22-month-old, yeah. His uncle got the cherries. He wakes up announcing, Herman eaten all the Jewies. Wish fulfilled.
And the little girl sad about the boat trip ending.
3¼ years old. She dreams the voyage just continues.
Or the boy disappointed about not climbing the Duckstein.
5¼ dreams vividly of climbing it. And the 6-year-old whose father cut their trip short but promised another landmark.
She dreams of visiting both places with him.
Exactly. The common thread is crystal clear, fulfilling unmet desires from the day before, usually linked to strong feeling. If it wasn't important to wake, it doesn't seem to make it into the dream.
But wish fulfillment in kids' dreams can be more subtle, too.
Yes, there's the example of the nearly 4-year-old girl, ill, in a big bed at her aunt's house.
And she dreams the bed is too small. No room.
The interpretation. The big bed probably reminded her of feeling small and weak due to her illness. The dream corrects this, fulfilling a wish to be big and strong, so big the bed becomes too small.
Clever. Even more complex kids' dreams still fit this pattern, like the boy dreaming of driving a chariot with Achilles.
The 8-year-old, yeah. Still seen as wish fulfillment. He'd been reading Greek legends, wished he could live in that heroic time. The dream lets him do it.
So the main characteristics of children's dreams seem clear. Linked to daytime life, fulfilling recent, emotionally charged wishes. Do we see similar things in adults?
We do, often in simpler forms. Think about dreaming of drinking when you're thirsty at night. That's direct wish fulfillment of a physical need.
Or those convenience dreams right before waking. Already washed, already at work.
Exactly. Or dreaming you've arrived at your destination before a long trip. Even anticipating pleasure, dreaming about the theater visit or party you're looking forward to, all wish fulfillment.
But in adults, it's often not as straightforward as wanting a cherry, dreaming of a cherry, right? The wish can be more hidden.
Much more hidden, often requiring interpretation. The example of the young wife dreaming her period started is classic.
How does that work?
On analysis, it was interpreted as announcing pregnancy, the absence of her period being the sign. But the dream simultaneously expressed a subconscious wish for her period to start, perhaps a wish to postpone the reality of pregnancy.
Wow, okay, so it's layered.
Very layered. And under extreme conditions like those polar explorers dreaming of huge meals, tobacco, home, these more basic infantile forms of wish fulfillment become really prominent again.
So even in complex, confusing adult dreams, bits of wish fulfillment are often embedded.
That's the idea. Even dreams that seem clear on the surface might have concealed meanings beyond the obvious wish.
Which brings us back to the big riddle. Can all dreams, even the most nonsensical adult ones, be traced back to these maybe infantile wish fulfillments from the day before?
That's the fundamental question. Appearances often contradict it, with dreams full of indifferent, strange stuff, no obvious wish in sight.
But the source material argues there's a principal feature of dreams, clear in wish fulfillment, that gives us a clue.
Yes, the idea that every dream at its core can be rephrased as an optative clause. Oh, if only.
But dreams go further than just wishing, don't they?
They do. They show the wish as already fulfilled, represented as real, happening now, mostly using situations and visual images.
And even in those simple kids' dreams, there's a basic dream work happening.
A transformation, yes. A thought expressed as a wish, I wish I had cherries, is transformed into a representation in the present tense. Herman is eating the cherries.
Which strongly suggests a similar, maybe more complex transformation happens in confusing adult dreams, even if the wish isn't obvious.
That's the implication. And going back to the speaker's own dream example, we saw this wish fulfillment through opposition.
Right. The real-life wife ignoring him versus the dream woman focusing only on
a wish fulfilled. And the bitter thought of always having to pay dearly versus the dream remark, you've always had such beautiful eyes, implying things come freely. Again, the opposite wish fulfillment.
So wish fulfillment explains at least some of the opposition between the manifest dream and the latent thought.
Definitely. But there's another critical achievement of dream work that really makes dreams incoherent. Condensation. Compression.
Tell us more about condensation.
It's a truly striking aspect. If you compare the sheer number of ideas, or even just the space it would take to write down the dream, versus the underlying dream thoughts analysis revealed, well, there's massive compression.
So a lot packed into a small space.
Exactly. It's like every single element in the dream has multiple associative threads attached, branching out in all directions into the dream thought. And dream situations themselves are often composites, built from bits of 2 or more different experiences.
You mentioned that swimming pool dream example earlier. How did condensation work there?
Right. The dream of a swimming pool, bathers scattering. Someone helping the dreamer out analysis showed it condensed several things. A puberty memory at a swimming school, images from a painting of scattering water nymph, Melusine, maybe even elements from a painting of the deluge.
All superimposed?
Pretty much. The common themes, water, scattering, rescue, became prominent in the condensed dream image.
And in the speaker's own company at table dream.
That seemingly simple situation was also a condensation. It packed in the engagement episode with the hand caress, the recent annoyance at the hotel table, even a deeper memory of estrangement during the engagement, and the hand on the knee. That belonged to a different context entirely, bringing in another whole set of condensed memory.
It's like dream work creates these symbolic mashup, composite images packing a lot of psychological weight.
Precisely. It relies on the material in the dream thoughts having shared features. It acts like those old Galton composite photos overlaying images makes common features stand out. Differences fade, which might explain why dream elements can feel vague sometimes.
And this has direct implications for analysis.
Absolutely. Like the rule, if a dream presents an either, treat it as an and in analysis. Start associating from both alternatives.
Because condensation might have squashed them together.
Exactly. And if there's no obvious link between two thoughts the dream work wants to connect, it might get creative. It can alter words slightly, find intermediate thoughts with a linguistic link, almost like finding rhyme.
Like the Costin example in the speaker's dream, meaning both cost and to taste.
A perfect example of verbal ambiguity created to forge a connection between the idea of getting something without cost and the memory of being urged to taste spinach at the family table. This linguistic flexibility is common in dream work.
And condensation goes even further, creating those weird composite figures and structures we see in dreams, things that don't exist in reality.
Oh yes, characteristic of dreams, not waking thought. Collective figures, composite figures, strange hybrid structures like mythical beasts, but newly constructed.
Many people recognize those from their own dreams.
For sure. They're built in various ways. Blending features, using one person's name with another's face, putting one person's image in another's typical situation.
And the meaning
Usually indicates an and or a just-as comparison, highlighting a specific similarity between the combined people, which analysis can usually uncover. Composite structures are similar strange mashups, but analysis reveals they condense elements with a shared characteristic. The dream is basically saying all these things share element X.
So dissecting them is a shortcut to the meaning.
Often, yes. Like the dream of sitting on a moving bench with a teacher surrounded by bench. Analysis showed it condensed a lecture theater and a moving walkway, the common element being transported with a group.
And the glass top hat dream.
Sitting in a railway carriage holding a transparent glass top hat. Bizarre. But associations led to a proverb, hat in hand, cross the line. The visual link between a glass cylinder and a gas man.
Connecting to a wish to make a scientific discovery like our von Welsbach, get rich, travel freely.
Exactly. The dream showed him traveling with his not yet useful discovery. Condensation and wish fulfillment working together.
And composites can even represent contradiction.
Yes, like the woman dreaming of carrying flowers, like the Annunciation angel, innocence, named Maria, but they were camellias, linked to La Dame aux Camélias, opposite of innocence. The composite image held both ideas.
Okay, so summing up condensation. Each dream element is overdetermined, fed by multiple dream thoughts.
Right. Derived not from one thought, but a whole cluster. Maybe from widely separated areas of thought. The dream element represents all this disparate material.
And the connection goes both ways. One thought can be represented by multiple dream elements.
Yes, the associative threads cross and interweave constantly between the manifest dream and the latent thought. Condensation and dramatization, turning thoughts into scenes, are the most significant, peculiar features of dream work.
But you said condensation and dramatization alone don't fully explain the difference between dream content and thought. There's a third fact, displacement.
Indeed, displacement. This involves shifting the psychical intensity, the emotional weight.
How does that work?
What seems prominent or emotionally charged in the manifest dream often deals with more superficial material than the core latent thoughts. While all dream content comes from the thoughts, and most thoughts get represented somehow.
The emphasis gets shifted.
Exactly. What's central and important in the thoughts might appear as a minor detail in the dream, or vice versa. The psychological intensity jumps from important thoughts to seemingly less important ones.
And this hides the meaning, makes the connection hard to see.
That's its main effect. The shifted intensity often appears as sensory vividness in the dream, a bright image, a loud sound.
So we can't just assume the most vivid part of the dream is the most important psychological.
Definitely not. An indistinct element might be the direct derivative of an essential thought. Displacement is like a transvaluation of psychical values. Apparent importance isn't real important.
Does it happen to the same degree in all dreams?
No, it varies. Some dreams have very little of those sensible, undisguised wish fulfillments. Others have almost complete replacement of essential thoughts by trivial ones. And there's a whole spectrum in between.
And the more confused the dream,
the more displacement is likely involved. In the speaker's dream, the foreground focus on the woman's advances masked the latent emphasis on the wish for unselfish love behind beautiful eyes and the spinach stuff.
Undoing this displacement is key to finding the dream's trigger and connection to waking life.
Absolutely key.
Speaking of triggers or instigators, some dreams clearly relate to the day before, others seem random. What does analysis show?
Analysis consistently reveals that every dream, no exception, links back to an impression from the last few days, usually the day before the dream day.
And this trigger can be important or trivial?
Either. It can be significant, carrying on waking interest, or it can be incredibly trivial, insignificant, hard to even remember. That focus on trivialities is partly why dreams get dismissed.
But analysis sees past that triviality.
Yes, the seemingly indifferent instigator is always linked to a significant underlying experience through copious association. Trivial dream material connects to things of high psychological importance via these paths.
So the preference for trivial stuff is an effective displacement again.
Exactly. The conclusion, based on the latent content, is that dreams always concern things we find worthwhile or emotionally charged during the day. Pure trivialities don't pursue us in sleep.
And the speaker's dream instigator.
That insignificant free cab ride. The illusion was the comparison of the taxi to the table d'hôte.
But the important underlying experience
was him paying a large sum for a loved family member a few days before. The dream thoughts were about wishing for uncostly gratitude love. Recent taxi rides with that relative made the free ride with a friend the trigger.
So the indifferent instigator must be recent, dream day, but the true source can be older, more significant.
Precisely. The instigator is recent. The source linked by association might not be.
Now, how do condensation and displacement sometimes work together?
Well, if two ideas share a common point, condensation might create a composite idea around that point. But if displacement is also involved, instead of a direct composite, an intermediate, maybe ambiguous entity gets constructed.
Like the resultant force in physics, related to both original elements, but not a simple blend.
That's a good analogy. The dream of the injection with propyl illustrates this.
How so?
Analysis led to an indifferent instigator involving AML. The link between AML and propyl wasn't clear, but then a memory surfaced. First visit to Munich, being struck by the word propeller.
So propyl is between AML and propeller.
Exactly. Phonetically related to both. It entered the dream as a compromise, created by simultaneous condensation and displacement.
Understanding these mechanisms really feels like learning the grammar of dreams.
It does. And understanding the motive for displacement is especially crucial, because that's the main tool for disguise, for making dream thoughts unrecognizable without analysis.
Are there other, maybe milder transformations? You mentioned considerations of representability.
Yes, that's important. Abstract dream thoughts need to become concrete, mainly visual, for the dream. So they often get expressed unusually, symbolically, using similes, metaphors like poetry.
Like translating a complex article into pictures. You'd have to adapt.
Exactly. And dream thoughts often include vivid memories, especially from childhood, which are already visual. These act like nuclei of crystallization, influencing the dream's form.
So dream scenes are often modified repetitions of impressive past experience.
Often, yes, though exact reproductions are rare. Dreams also include visual fragments, bits of speech, even unmodified thoughts sometimes.
So what modes of representation does dream work actually have to translate complex thoughts with logical relations, foreground, background contradictions into a dream?
Well, the process involves condensation, fragmentation, displacement, and selecting material suitable for scene's regression. In doing this, the logical links often get lost or obscured. Analysis has to restore them. Dreams have fewer ways to show logic than speech.
But they have some ways.
Yes, through formal characteristic. Combining material into one situation implies connection, like grouping poets on Parnassus. Close proximity suggests a special link. All dreams in one night usually relate to the same thought circle.
How about causality, or either?
Causality might be shown by sequence, sometimes reversed, or immediate transformation. Either isn't expressed. Both alternatives might just appear together. If a dreamer reports either, it often points to contrary ideas in the latent thoughts.
And contradiction, negation.
Contradictions are often expressed by the same dream element. No, doesn't really exist. Opposition is shown by reversal. Feeling inhibited in movement can represent conflicting impulse. Similarity is heavily used for condensation.
It sounds like a unique, if limited, language.
It is. And not all dreams are built with the same care. Some use these expedients more than others. Obscure, confused dreams usually rely more heavily on them.
What about dreams that are just plain absurd, utter nonsense?
If a dream is obviously absurd, the source argues it's intentional. The apparent lack of logic isn't random. It often expresses intellectual content from the dream thoughts, things like contradiction, ridicule, derision.
So it contradicts the idea of dreams as just uncritical, dissociated mental activity.
Directly contradicts it. The absurdity itself carries meaning.
You mentioned that absurd dream example involving Mr. M and Goethe. What was so nonsensical?
Okay, the dream had Goethe attacking Mr. M violently. in an essay totally unjustified in Waking Opinion. Mr. M's devastated, but still reveres Goethe. The dreamer tries to sort out the impossible chronology. Goethe died in 1832, so the attack must have been earlier, when Mr. M was maybe 18, but the dreamer isn't sure of the current year. And the attack was supposedly in Goethe's famous essay on nature.
And the absurdity.
Mr. M, in reality, is a young businessman, zero interest in poetry, an utterly unlikely target for Goethe. The dreamer felt analysis would reveal the method in this madness.
What were the real-life sources feeding into this?
Several threads. First, Mr. M asking the dreamer to examine his brother, who had general paralysis. An awkward moment where the patient asked his birth year revealed his brother's youthful follies. The year was Goethe's death year in the dream. The patient also did memory tests.
Okay, source one.
Second, a medical journal, Dreamer on title page, published a crushing review by a young critic of a book by the dreamer's friend F. This led to a confrontation, resignation. The negative reception hit hard, as the dreamer felt F's book held a major biological discovery.
Source two.
Third, a female patient described her brother's illness cries of, "Nature, nature." Doctors blamed reading Goethe's essay. The dreamer suggested a sexual meaning for nature, seemingly confirmed when the young man later mutilated his genitals. He was 18.
So how did these weave into the Goethe Mr. M dream?
The dreamer's ego in the dream stood for his friend, F, badly treated by the critic. Trying to clarify chronology mirrored F's book dealing with life's chronology, including Goethe's lifespan. Comparing the ego to a paralytic made the friend seem paralytic absurd. Uncertainty about the year reflected anxiety about his own ideas.
And the reversal Goethe attacking the young man
represented the underlying ironic thought. Maybe F is the fool, and the critics are right. Or could it be the other way around? It fits the principle of egoistic motives the dreamer identified with F, fearing a similar reception for his own theories, emphasizing sexuality. The nature patient alluded to similar criticism.
So the absurdity expressed ridicule of the critics.
Yes, ongoing ridicule and derision. It even pulled in other details. Goethe's sheep skull discovery on the Lido, friend F boasting about ousting an old senile professor, age is no defense against folly, the dreamer's own frustration with his fossil hospital chief, all condensed and distorted into that absurd scenario.
It's truly remarkable. So much packed in, so disguised.
It is. Dreams are far from random firing. They're complex psychical productions.
Well, this deep dive into these foundational ideas about dream psychology has been incredibly illuminating. We started looking at those early contrasting views and the enduring questions about what dreams actually mean.
And we saw how psychoanalysis, with free association, offered a new way in, a tool to start unlocking those hidden layers.
We really unpacked that method through the personal dream example, showing how seemingly bizarre manifest content can lead, through association, to this rich, complex web of latent thoughts and feelings.
Introducing that crucial distinction, manifest versus latent content, and the idea of the dream as a substitute, shaped by this process called dream work.
And we delved into the core mechanisms of that dream work: condensation, displacement, the need for visual representability, revealing the intricate ways our minds transform thoughts into the often strange narrative, even absurdity having a purpose.
Absolutely, all pointing to the surprising complexity. Dreams aren't just noise, they're structured psychological events, transformed, driven by underlying wishes, anxieties, thought.
So as you, our listener, reflect on this, maybe think about the last dream you remember. If its surface seemed nonsensical, confusing, what hidden connections, what buried feeling, perhaps what unacknowledged wishes might lie beneath, waiting to be unpacked?
What might that perspective suggest about the hidden currents of your own thoughts and desires, expressed in this unique, veiled language of dreams?
Definitely a lot to think about. Thanks